Everyone, bringing you another book I just read. The Old Dear American series. Back in the 90s, I have a whole bunch of these books growing up, and I just thought, like, I'll reunion some of these books. They're pretty much about diaries of young girls and sometimes boys. It's like, and an author, a different author, will either finds these, either makes up like a story based off of a character, or finds like in a traditional diary from the girl and ends up publishing it. And in these books, you could see there's not really that chapters, it just says like the day, and then the different dates, and then in the very back it has the information about what it gets talked about in the diary. This one is based off the potato famine. I personally, education-wise, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong if you went to a better system school than I did, but I never really learned about the potato famine in American school districts. The only reason why I know about it is because it's my ancestry, and so it just got passed down. The idea of it just got passed down from generation to generation. And I know my ancestors came from that time period to Butte, Montana, and then of course there's a bunch of Irish in Boston. And so it was kind of fun to read this and like learn about the Laurel, Mississippi Irish back in 1847. And then this is the picture back in the back of the book, a picture of the potato famine. Kind of gives a little description at the bottom. And then a picture of the combinations of the boat. Not that great. And the mills that the girls would work at. And I found it kind of like surprising. And this girl would have been only 13 years old, and she would have already went to America, didn't even consider going back to school or being in school, and just went straight to work as a 13-year-old, working 6 days. She worked 6 days a week in a mill. And today, in today's society, we would more than likely consider that like a man's job, and like what we would consider children nowadays, girls, were working in there. And what really aggravates me about it is because it doesn't really shy away from the history of how the Irish was treated when they first arrived. The American, or back then we would call it Yankee girls, would be getting paid the exact same job that the Irish girls were also working, like double the money. And right next to them would have been like an Irish immigrant girl, would have been half the price. So these like slave driving companies would be getting these girls and taking full advantage of them. And it was in the mills, when she's describing them, it's like a very dangerous job. One little boy like got his hand cut off. Another girl got her hair stuck in one and it ripped off her scalp, and she ended up dying for it. And she only got paid 80 cents a day, 6 days a week, and she got paid every 2 weeks. And she was trying to save up money for her parents to come over, but they ended up dying because of the potato famine back in Ireland. So she ends up using that money to free another Irish friend from jail when he got wrongly accused for starting a riot. When the back then they were calling them us Yankees, the Americans, and did not at all. We all know that the Americans didn't treat the Irish right when they first came over. And then this diary does not really shy away from the whole, if you're Irish, you need not apply for job titles, and the different churches that they go into, and the whole, like, they had their own little town, like mini Ireland inside of Massachusetts. And honestly, even with my education, with my ancestors going to Butte, it's the exact same way. Like, there's a certain neighborhood where it's only the Irish, and then there was a certain neighborhood where it was like the English or the Yankees Americans, and it also kind of goes by what, like, even today, like, you would still see the buildings that were there, which I honestly think is pretty cool. What were they? Like the mill that they would work at, and here's a little illustration of the women that worked it. And to think it's the women that are going there and finding these jobs, and not really the guys, which I find, first I find like kind of awesome, because like women are going out and getting work rather than like thinking they're gonna stay home, like how tradition, like how we would think what tradition would be, but this is like Victorian. And then here's like a little picture of the mine category. And then this is what the, or not, I'm saying mine, like, no, that's what my ancestors, I meant mill. This is like a mill, sorry. And then this is a different picture of how, of one next to a mill, which honestly I have next to no education of what those were back in the day, really, which is kind of sad. And then this is an old document and an old like newspaper, and it's came to be a book. And then this is the old church that all the Irish would go to in Laurel, St. Patrick's. And then back here in this was taken in the 1920s, but it would not have looked any different according to this description. It would be the same as the 1840s, which I thought was pretty cool. And of course, this song gets mentioned all the time in this book. And so here's the full version of the song. It's like an Irish bedtime story song, and then the music, I guess the music that goes with it. And for these kind of books being published in the 90s, they have really good education going towards them, going with them. And then, what was it? Pretty much an old map of Laurel. And about the author. Now it's really kind of unclear if the author kind of, well, not made up, because this little girl definitely did exist, but like kind of used education to kind of hyphen the diary and just wrote the diary in her case, or is this really her diary? And then also in one of these backstories, it tells that her aunt that brought her to, paid for her shipment to bring her to Ireland, worked as a teacher for like over 40 years. And she ended up staying in Laurel when her niece moved out west, which makes me think she took the Oregon Trail. And she ended up marrying and having 2 kids. And then her sister was over in America before she ever came to America, or the younger sister. And she was like a maid person to a really, really rich lady. So she kind of, in this book, it kind of shows that she is kind of stuck up because she thinks she's like higher up than the rest of her Irish immigrants. And then this is a entry level in the back, kind of shows you and tells you what it's about. And this is one of many of those old 1990s diary books. And if you have a younger one, or if you yourself just wanted to deep into some of like lost history and have it a little bit more personalized, I would definitely an individual's whereabouts and their views of what was going on. I would highly suggest some of these old books, and you can find a lot of them on Amazon, but since they are so like older, the newer ones that would be brand new is like, I saw it was like almost like $50, but the used ones is like $2 something, but fortunately I already had these since the 90s, so I didn't have to do that for so many, but there were a few that I wanted, so I ended up buying some from Amazon. They're the Dear America series, and there's also another series where it's Dear Canada, which honestly I haven't really heard anything about. I just discovered it and I can't wait to dabble into that. And I would highly suggest this as like if you're doing homeschool for your children, or if you wanted, or if you notice that when you're at school, when your child is learning about something but it's not diving deep into it that much and you would rather have them have like a deeper education of it, when it comes to like the stuff about the potato famine and how the Irish was treated in America when they first came over and the whole Irish need not apply, this is a really good book for either boys or girls in like the preteen, teenager age group. Okay, and that's all I have for today. Thanks for watching. Bye.